Broadcasting Corporation with barrages of half-baked information that President George Weah left Liberia before writing the national legislature. Several others have also contended that the president's scheduled visit to Qatar was to watch his son play at the World Cup with no benefit to Liberia. The Office of the Presidential Press Secretary disclosed that the president's trips are official international engagements that began with the timely notification of the 55th legislature and that the trips have been netting tremendous benefits for Liberia. President Weah left Liberia on November 1, 2022 via a special flight arranged and paid for by the King of Morocco, King Mohammed VI. The Morocco visit, in which the president participated in this year's Middays Forum that brought together over 500 world leaders and civil society activists, paid off almost instantly with a number of commitments, including $50 million investment package from the government of Hungary, 25 scholarships for deserving Liberians from the government of Hungary, the transformation by Tagian Mediterranean Port Authority of the National Port Authority, and flights from Liberia to Cape Verde and Southern Africa. The president's foreign travels this month also included participating in the UN Global Climate Change Conference held in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, dubbed COP27. Liberia, as a member of the Committee of Nations and front runner affected by the impact of the climate change, made a strong case that is extracting commitments in millions of dollars. Liberia's President George Weah has expressed sadness and grief over the death of the late Mens Johnson, Deputy Chief of Protocol at the Executive Mansion. The Deputy Chief of Protocol died at the JFK Medical Hospital in Cinco, where he had been undergoing treatment. President Weah said the deceased will be remembered for his humility, values, love for country, and strong work ethics, which resulted to loss of sources and many can emanate. His death has created a deep void in the office of the Chief of Protocol, but will also personally impact the Liberian leader who had come to regard the deceased for work ethics and politeness. The president extends his profound sympathy to the family of the bereaved, praying that they take solace in the Lord during this time of bereavement. The House of Representatives has acknowledged receipt of a letter dated November 18, 2022, informing the members of the House of President Weah's extension in his travels. The Liberian Chief Executive's communication indicated that it has now become necessary to extend his stay abroad due to other official engagements requiring his travel to France, Monaco, and the United States of America. They include the 5th edition of the Paris Peace Forum, which he attended in Paris, France, was extended from November 15, 2022 to November 18, 2022, thereby necessitating an adjustment in his attendance as a guest of honor of FIFA at the World Cup in Doha, Qatar from November 18 to November 30, 2022. The Liberian leader also mentioned in his communication to the House that he has been invited to attend the 13th edition of the Peace and Sports International Forum in Monaco, France, as a special guest of honor from November 30 to December 3, 2022. Following that, he will travel to the United States of America, where he will hold meetings with various business and political leaders of that country from December 4 to December 12, 2022. According to the House's Press and Public Affairs, the President's communication following informed members of the House of Representatives that the Liberian Chief Executive, following an official invitation from the U.S. President Joe Biden, will attend the United States Africa Leaders Summit scheduled to be held in Washington, D.C. from December 13 to 15, 2022. The President's communication states that he will return to Liberia on December 18, 2022. According to the President's communication addressed to Speaker Buffer Chambers, while he's still away from the country, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Liberia, Councillor Frank Musa Dane, will continue to chair the cabinet in consultation with the Vice President and in telephone consultation with him. The Public Procurement Concession Commission has granted a no objection to the National Elections Commission submission accompanying documents and subsequent clarifications for the awarding of biometric contracts to Laxton Group. The amount is in the tune of $11,934,032 for the purpose of supplying and delivering biometric voter registration equipment, software, and materials for the 2023 presidential and legislative elections. The no objection is rendered for the NEC to award contract to Laston Group in the amount of 11.9 million for the supply and delivery of biometric voter registration equipment, software, and materials for the conduct of the elections. Under the contract, NEC is set to ensure quality performance for the contract package, given its critical nature and given that the first biometric voter registration pilot for Liberia. In the PPCC's no objection, the NEC is advised to submit a copy of the final contract to the PPCC for validity and reporting as required by the PPCA. The PPCC also acknowledged and deemed it a priority that the NEC remains primarily in compliance with the PPCA as they both jointly aspire to achieve transparency, accountability, value for money, and ultimate public confidence in Liberia's public procurement and concession processes. The House of Representatives has ratified the second additional financing on Liberia COVID-19 emergency preparation and response project between Liberia as a recipient and the International Development Association with an objective to prepare and respond to COVID-19 pandemic in Liberia. A statement issued by the House of Representative Press and Public Affairs Bureau says plenary's decision followed a report from the Joint Committee on Ways, Means, Finance and Development Planning and Judiciary, respectively, on the financing agreement signed on July 4, 2022. Under the agreement, the association agreed to extend the Republic of Liberia a grant and a credit which are deemed as concessional financing in the following amounts: $4,600,000 and $2,100,000 respectively. The Joint Committee informed plenary that the maximum commitment charge rate at half of 1% per annum, as withdrawing from financing rate and service charge 4% of 1%, with a payment date beginning February 15 and August 15 in each year. The August body added that the ratification of the financing agreement, including Liberia COVID-19 emergency preparedness and response project second additional financing, in keeping with its objective, would strengthen the framework of the pro-poor agenda for prosperity and development. Meanwhile, the instrument is expected to be transmitted to the Liberian Senate for concurrence following the motion by Nimba County District 3 Representative Joseph Sowabe. Stay at the Capitol. House Speaker Buffer Chambers has constituted the House's conference committee to work with the Liberian Senate in the passage of the drugs law of 2014. Those named include Representatives Kan Iwaso, Chairman Roston Nswakoko, Co-Chair Thomas Egoshua, Member Yeke Korua, Member and Alfred Kwewood, Member. The decision followed a communication from the Liberian Senate informing the House of his decision to concur with his engrossed Bill number 25, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 14 of the New Penal Law of Liberia under the title Offense Involving Danger to the Person by adding thereto Subchapter E under the title Controlled Drug and Substances Act of 2014 for concurrence. The Senate forwarded same to the Judiciary Committee for deliberation and subsequent advice to the plenary of the Senate for action. According to the Senate's communication, the committee, during its deliberation, took note of the changes made by the House of Representatives as stated in its report to the plenary and subsequently provided an amendment thereto. The Senate, having deliberated on the report, endorsed same as the Senate's amendment to House's engrossed Bill number 25, copy thereto attached for the easy reference in view of due to the fact that each chamber has its own vision as version of the bill passed, which needs to be synchronized. The Liberian Senate forwarded the names of senators representing the conference committee of the Senate. The executive director of the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia says the level of support being provided by the government of Sweden through SIDA to the organization on its ongoing NIBA program is unprecedented for Edono. And as the Miamen team lead at the institution said, SIDA through the Swedish embassy has shown a high level of flexibility and generosity to center over the last 2 years of the program implementation. Speaking Thursday, November 24, at an annual review meeting aimed at increasing information sharing for proper planning and coordination held with staff of the Swedish embassy. Miami said the support has further increased center's visibility and positioned it as one of the influential national civil society organizations in Liberia, especially in the anti-corruption space. He also praised the embassy for the level of direct support being provided to different civil society organizations, including Neighborhood Partners for Democratic Development and others. The meeting, the second of its kind, was also intended to share information and receive input and feedback from the donor to enhance the overall program performance through reflection of successes, challenges, and lessons learned during the implementation of the program's second phase. Team members, including Dr. Ike Precious Lee, Gender Officer Anthony Isaac Yanti, LA ALAC coordinator, and William Talley, finance and administrative manager of Center, provided updates on different aspects of NABAD program. And the Liberia National Police has arrested and is currently investigating 2 students of the Seventh-day Adventist School on Ken Johnson Road in connection with firearms, handcuffs, and face masks on the school's campus. Police spokesman Moses Carter said the arrest was subsequently made after the school's administrators informed the investigative arm of the LMP regarding the situation. Addressing newsmen at the headquarters of the Liberia National Police Friday, November 25, Carter outlined numerous efforts made by the Liberia National Police in fighting crimes and abuses of the country. He asserted that the police has also investigated, subsequently charged, and sent to court suspect Lawrence Rachel, aged 33, with the crimes of counterfeiting, economic sabotage, and money laundering, which, according to him, are in violation of Section 15.70 and 10.2 of the revised penal law of Liberia. The LMP has also arrested and charged suspect Prince Weah, aged 42, with the crime of theft of property and forgery. According to the LMP investigation, it was established that suspect Prince has received from victim Tawan Maswa the sum of $350 and 2,000 Liberian dollars to pay for services. The LMP spokesman has showed police commitment in fighting crimes in Liberia. That's the news bulletin. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll bring you voices behind the news. Welcome back. Let's take this first development. Liberia National Police has arrested and is currently investigating 2 students of the Seventh-day Adventist School on Ken Johnson Road in connection with firearms, handcuffs, and face masks on the school's campus. Police spokesman Moses Carter said the arrest was subsequently made after the school's administrators informed the investigative arm of the LMP regarding the situation. He also asserted that the police has also investigated, subsequently charged, and sent to court suspect Clarence Rachel, aged 33, with the crimes of counterfeiting, economic sabotage, and money laundering, which, according to him, are in violation of Section 15.70 and 10.2 of the revised penal law of Liberia. He made the statement during a news conference on Friday.
Having said that, I want to say thanks again for coming to our call to brief you on some of the progress we have made at the Liberia National Police in the fight against crime and abuse. So to get started with, like you heard Superintendent Henry Backham say, we have made some strides or some gains, if you may say, in the fight against crime. We have arrested and we are investigating 2 students of the Seventh-day Adventist High School, for short SDA, on Camp Johnson Road for illegal possession of firearm and other materials. The 2 individuals arrested by the police were arrested today in the afternoon hours, say in between the morning and afternoon hours, on the Adventist High School campus, SDA, Camp Johnson Road. They were arrested with possession of firearms, handcuffs, and face masks on the campus of the SDA High School, Camp Johnson Road.
The LMP has also arrested and charged suspect Prince Weah, aged 42, with the crime of theft of property and forgery. According to a police investigation, it was established that suspect Prince received from victim Tawan Maswa the sum of $350 and 2,000 Liberian dollars to pay for service. Police spokesman Moses Carter showed police commitment in fighting crimes in the country.
Social media, the Liberia National Police has arrested and has duly charged suspect Prince Weah, 42 years old, with the crime theft of property and forgery. According to investigation conducted by the Special Investigation Unit of the Liberia National Police, for short the SIU unit, it was established that on November 17, 2022, suspect Weah received from victim Tawan Maswa the sum of $350 United States dollars plus 2,000 Liberian dollars to pay for services as required by United States Department of Homeland Security application process. Our investigative findings further states that suspect Prince Weah gave a fake and fraudulent receipt to the victim. Our investigation, distinguished members of the press and the public, also revealed that when victim Maswa went for interview at the embassy of the United States near Monrovia, it was discovered by the consulate of the United States Embassy near Monrovia that the receipt issued the victim was invalid, thereby resulting to a denial of the process.
His police spokesman, Moses Carter. Liberia Maritime Authority Commissioner Eugene Nangbe has challenged the opposition to document their cause for the impeachment of President George Weah rather than using mere social media posts. Speaking when he addressed Ministry of Information regular press briefing Thursday, Commissioner Eugene Nangbe said President Weah's visit to Qatar was not just to watch games, but in an official capacity as requested by FIFA. He further disclosed that while in Qatar, the delegation headed by the Minister of State was able to convene a meeting which resulted to the agreement of the construction of a football academy in Liberia, training of coaches, players, amongst others.
A lot of ill-informed posting, particularly from people of the Unity Party, about the president's visit. So I want to take my time to articulate. It's really surprising because these are people who were in government before, and they know that it is a tradition. If the president is going to in Paris on the 11th, you don't expect him to arrive on the 11th, the same day that he's going to speak. So he usually arrives a day before. In this case, Mr. President flew by commercial jet, commercial plane, meaning passenger plane, from Paris. He flew to Doha on Qatar Airways and arrived almost midnight. And he was a guest of honor along with two other persons who were invited by two other heads of state who were invited by FIFA. Although Mr. President also came here to watch a couple of his son's games, he is also here in an official capacity. So after performing the opening ceremony along with other guests of FIFA, the next day he the game for the US versus. We are aware and we too have political intelligence, and this is why they came up with because Mr. Barker knows that we cannot defeat President we are in an election. He's calling for impeachment of a sitting president for performing a constitutional responsibility. So it is an open challenge to the UP to table an impeachment bill of the legislature. They have UP representatives, they have UP senators. We challenge them. If they mean what they say, let them put it in a legal document and table it before the legislature. Otherwise, it's just not ready, and the president will not be deterred. After a year, Mr. President will fly to Monaco. Somebody say, oh, why are you waiting for the 30th? Because if you go on the 29th and have a meeting on the 30th, you say, oh, why you went on the 29th? And it's like, do them, don't do them. It's because following the official meetings, then the announcement of the benefits of this trip will come. But already, the delegation headed by the foreign minister visited our academy to consummate an agreement for the construction of sports academies to our Nigeria and training of our young athletes and also training of trainers to train coaches. So on the side of all of the official engagements, this is what we got out of Qatar.
The National Maritime Commissioner also named as part of the benefits thus far out of the president's travel the Hungarian government's commitment to provide $50 million to Liberia as technical support to the port of Monrovia through the biggest port in North Africa, Tiger Med. Commissioner Nangbe followed that the technical support from the largest port in North Africa to the National Port Authority will include the visit of a technical team from the National Port Authority to Tiger Med to meet their counterparts, amongst others.
While in Morocco, the president had several meetings, including a meeting with the foreign minister of Hungary to continue bilateral discussions that were already initiated. At that meeting, Hungary committed 50 million towards business investment in Liberia. The president thanked the Hungarian people for that. So that is the first goodie that came out of his trip, which was 50 million. In addition to that, we visited the largest port in North Africa, which is the port of Tangier, where the president managed to get them to agree to provide technical support at the port of Monrovia. Already since the president left Morocco, there have been initial conversations now for the management of the free port of Liberia, the NPA, to dispatch a technical team so that the technical team will meet with their counterpart in Tangier and will begin work so that when they return to Liberia, assessment will be done so that an expansion of the port of Monrovia, an improvement of the technical capability of the port of Monrovia can be done. So after that, Mr. President went to honor duty at the climate change conference where other world leaders were. As you know, Mr. President in Glasgow at the last climate change conference, COP26, was designated by his colleagues in Africa to speak as their champion. And the reason for that is that Liberia has about 40% of the Guinea forest that holds all of our biodiversity in West Africa. Liberia having 40% of that is the champion for.
He's the commissioner of the Liberia Maritime Authority, Eugene Nangbe. Finance and Development Planning Minister Samuel Tue has informed members of the Liberian Senate that government does not lack money to pay salaries has been perceived by some members of the public. According to Minister Tue, the government is committed to not owing arrears for civil servants across the country. The finance minister further stated that there was some technical problems in the payment of salaries to civil servants for the month of October, and assured the plenary of the Liberian Senate government's commitment to paying civil servant salaries, which has commenced for the month of October.
Government has paid for October. Government's October salary was delayed for a reason. There was a glitch. That's the fact. That is correct.
We all know about glitch.
The senator say I must speak the truth. I must speak the fact. Government October salary has an issue. The government has paid government workers in October. There may be small issues regarding it. What is important here for the public is that these issues are not about money. In fact, some government workers are beginning to get paid for November today. Today, government workers are receiving the November salary. Some government workers have received the salary alert for November. So let us not politicize this issue of a salary. When there was a technical problem from January this year to this year, nobody heard of a salary issue. All of a sudden, when somebody hears of a salary issue, then the minister has to explain why. But I cannot say what I know is not a fact. If people want me to say something that I do not know is a fact, I will not say it. I'm under oath. I'm under oath to say October salary has been paid. Now, there are some few issues with banks on posting. So one or two government entities were still sorting that out. Meanwhile, the government November salary has commenced. And the mandate is that the government will pay all government workers for November by November 29th. That is the information that I have to give to the Liberian people. November salary has started to roll. The aim is to pay November before the end of November. The president has mandated me to ensure not just November is paid, but that all December salary, the last man in government must be paid on December 15th. The last person in government or the last salary processing must happen December 15th, 10 days before December. That means if the last person will be paid on December 15th, or the last process will be on December 15th, somebody will receive the pay on December 5 for Christmas.
His Finance Minister Samuel Tue. Women in Agriculture for Sustainable Development has ended a day-long capacity building training for women in agriculture in Painesville. Women in Agriculture for Sustainable Development is a local NGO that works in rural communities to improve the living conditions of women and girls through human solidarity, agribusiness development that creates prosperity, local economy, empowerment for peace, security, and women's representation in decision-making. The training, which was held under the theme Grooming Successful Women, agribusiness leaders brought together women from across Painesville and Johnsonville, respectively. Speaking Thursday at one day agribusiness training workshop for women in Painesville, Deputy Gender Minister at the Ministry of Gender, Madam Alice Johnson Howard, urged women, most especially women in agriculture, to join forces in producing more food.
When we are able to feed ourselves, then we're not a nation. We are not a nation. A nation that cannot feed itself is dead. And this is why you are here today. This opportunity to learn the skills, the idea to be able to stay in business, especially in agro, is very important for our society. But when foreigners come to this country, they see our land, they are so impressed that we continue to look for rice outside. When you look all over our landscape, it's green and fresh. We don't want to supply the rest of the world with food, but we're still going for handout for purpose. We're going for handout for this. So today, this particular program, if you have decided to be a part of this program, let's take it serious. So We sitting down here, everywhere when you look, even on the beaches, you can plan, you get food to eat, my people, you can get. So, and we're sitting down here, every day we are acting that government gets to the government. But I am happy to be a part of this process. To see young women, even older women, coming together. Yes, we don't have the modernized equipment. So innovative way, that means new way to do things for you to get more money. New ways are coming up. So the more we get our telephone is not always to just because you now when you go to bed. Yeah, I was coming to the show, I don't want to waste my time. No. There's no time for us to waste any longer. Liberian, especially Liberian, we are rising up in it. Everything in our hand, we are the power. We are the right. Women are the who make up as we come to this program, agriculture, which is vital to our society. It's very important. We want to say this workshop should be our basis of improving the way we've been managing our farm. And the best way to is to unite our forces.
He remarks the founder of Women in Agriculture for Sustainable Development, Howard Varning, noted that women play a critical role in agriculture. As such, they should get involved in capacity building, training to help better understand the agriculture sector and its opportunities.
Capacity building for women in agriculture, and it's going to be specifically focused on agribusiness. As you all know, women play a critical role in agriculture in Liberia. According to the National Gender Profile of Agriculture and Rural Livelihood 2018, agriculture remains one of the most important areas for the improvement of livelihood of women in their household. In the sector, women make up over 93% of crop farmers. They play a key role in linking rural and urban markets through informal networks, thereby enhancing crop production for income generation. But however, with all these roles that women play, they face several challenges and technical barriers that limit their access to land, information, finance, infrastructure, technology, and market. So today, the Women in Agriculture for Sustainable Development,
The Liberia Institute for Statistics and Geoinformation Services Acting Director Lawrence George has disclosed that the conduct of the National Population and Housing Census is expected to be concluded on January 15, 2023, after the joint resolution from the legislature is signed. Addressing Mika's regular press briefing in Monrovia on Thursday, DG's acting director said full deployment of enumerators is at 99% across the country. He maintained that the remaining 1% of enumerators who may decide not to do what they are assigned to do, the census coordination and technical team will take action against them.
As a national institution, we work with the partners to ensure best practice during the census data collection. It's upon this that we now have a control command center where data is being fed to the central offices daily. Household listing exercises are being conducted. This started with the deployment of enumerators and supervisors across the country. We also told you, we gave you a timeline through which we're working, inspired by the joint resolution of the national legislature, which gives us an end date towards which we can work, and that end date is January 15. This means all of our exercises, including the preparation of reports, must be complete by that time. We also would like to say that full deployment is at 99% of the deployment of enumerators across the country. 1%, some may decide that they will not do what they are assigned to do. So with that information, the Control Command Center will now alert the census coordination team and the necessary technical actions are taken to ensure that such enumerators will.
Meanwhile, Lawrence George has disclosed that active household enumeration is ongoing across the country, while payment to enumerators has been made. An additional payment is expected to start for all enumerators and supervisors across Liberia. The Civil Society Advocacy Human Rights Platform of Liberia, in collaboration with the Independent National Commission on Human Rights, has ended a one-day stakeholders dialogue aimed at monitoring human rights in the 2023 presidential and legislative elections in the country. The dialogue held under the theme Strengthening the Human Rights Community to actively monitor human rights in elections processes with civil society organizations aimed at sustainable peace in Liberia was funded by the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights. Speaking in an interview with reporters Thursday, the platform's Secretary General Adama Dempster said the dialogue was organized purposely to prepare civil society organizations in the human rights sector to properly monitor the elections in Liberia in the context of human rights.
The Civil Society Human Rights Advocacy Platform. This is an ongoing initiative that is organized by the Civil Society Human Rights Advocacy Platform of Liberia with support from the UN High Commission for Human Rights operating in Liberia. We, as human rights and human rights group, we have always followed elections. Elections are borders around human rights. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights is an evidence to that, and of course our constitutions as well. So over the time we have participated in a number of elections. So we realize that there are a couple of concerns that need to be considered or incorporated in our own human rights framework when it comes to monitoring election, in order to help us increase our knowledge, our skills, and develop a pathway to monitor elections. We considered having this one-day dialogue with stakeholders from the counties. That is bringing people from Lofa, as far as Lofa, and of course, Bombing, Cape Mount, and other parts of Liberia to have actually held this dialogue in Monrovia. This dialogue is expected to allow us to develop a modified human rights checklist in monitoring elections as we envisage 2023 elections. There are normal ways that people monitor elections. That is, political parties will have their representatives observing the election from using political lenses.
For its part, the human rights officer at the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights, Roosevelt JG, said the UNHCR office in Monrovia will provide the necessary resources that will empower CSOs and independent national commissions on human rights in Liberia to fully monitor the human rights context of the elections in the country.
Dialogue is based on the support the human rights works in the context of electoral processes that fall within the mandate of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR, that require attention to the human rights issues and development that are particularly relevant to the elections. It is therefore against the background that OHCHR seek to provide technical support to civil society organizations in the other partners in the context of the election. The technical support will also be based on guidance that will be provided, including other issues like monitoring based on human rights issues in the context of election. We will be working along with them. They will also follow up with them. There will also be joint field trip, but there is a mechanism, a RAB coordination platform that involves the CSO platform and other CSO and the Independent National Human Rights Commission. So
he's the human rights officer at the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights, Roosevelt JG, allowing listened to Adama Dempster, the Secretary General of the Civil Society Advocacy Human Rights Platform of Liberia. And away from whom Malawi's Vice President Solos Chilema has been arrested on allegations that he accepted money in exchange for awarding government contracts, the country's anti-corruption agency says. He's accused of receiving $280,000 from a British businessman and other items. Chilema has appeared in court but has not commented on the charges. He had already been stripped of his powers in June when he was first accused by the Anti-Corruption Bureau. He had named him and another 3 Malawian officials as allegedly having corrupt dealings with the businessman from Britain named as Zunef Satta. Chidema is now facing 6 charges relating to corruption. His supporters appeared to clash with police as he entered the court in the capital, Lilongwe. The Reuters news agency reports video from local media as showing. Satta was arrested in the UK in October last year and is out on bail. He's accused of using connections with senior Malawi government officials and politicians to fraudulently obtain contracts to supply goods and services. Chidema came to power in 2020 as the running mate of President Lazarus Chakwera, had previously campaigned on an anti-corruption platform promising to end decades of sleaze in government and ending poverty in one of the world's poorest countries. Well, folks, that's all the time I have to be with you on today's edition of Freedom Evening News Basket. But just before we take a few stories been carrying this evening, Laston Group's gets Public Procurement Concession Commission grants NEC to no objection for biometric at the contract. House of Representatives acknowledges receipt of a letter of President Weah's extension in his travels. Presidential Press Secretary debunks and terms as misinformation bias reporting on President Weah's ongoing international engagements. And away from home, Malawi's Vice President Solos Chidema arrested for corruption, according to the BBC. I'd love to say many thanks for listening, many thanks for watching, and thanks to all our reporters and editors, correspondents for making this presentation a success. For and on behalf of the news team, my name is Alexander Nyeneke with this weekend's presentation. Have a wonderful weekend.